session is all about, what kind of career pathways and progression routes can young students from the school take into higher education, and what are the challenges predominantly faced in the ecosystem at the school level when it comes to the guardians, the parents, and child themselves, in terms of when they want to take up creative education, and how creative education is understood by school teachers, by students, because most of us, we haven't been through creative ways of teaching and learning in our school journey. Very little of engagement and service was there, and we followed a very strict regime kind of teaching, which was more rote learning in our past, in a couple of years and decades in the past. And to actually unlearn and reinvent ourselves to become creative individuals, I'm sure our families, our surroundings, and our country as a nation has a huge to contribute there. So I start the question here with Lata. How have you seen creative education as, and what creativity truly meant for the schools that you have been in?
Thank you, Archana. Thank you all of you for having me here at this most amazing campus. We're talking of the whole schooling system, the whole education system that we talked about. And if we look back at our Gurukuls, if we look back at our Nalandas, we will realize that what was and what is moving from what used to be extremely creative to what has been recognized. That has been the core and need of an evolving world. Now, having led schools for quite a few years of my life, and having seen students grow up and differentiate into being human beings who actually made this world today good enough to be questioned that some of us feel like we don't really understand. Having said all this, the nurseries of all these creations are the schools. Somehow creativity got lost initially in its work. It was meant for an art classroom. What can you create? Design was an even more different word. But the more important thing, if we move from nouns to adjectives and verbs, in the usage of the word design, we understand that we were all designed for this purpose, to make this place a better world. An educated mind was not necessarily a schooled mind. So if we look at the targets on which we are required to function, I think it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the evolving communities and the change phases that the schools examine. Her one pointed question was, how do we bring in this design thinking and what is its place in schools? I can tell you one thing, which must be significantly different today as educators. It is not a period of 30 minutes. It has to be seen as a process of taking through the entire school and thereafter what follows in the communities. It has to be an interactive requirement of the society to have young men and women think through what will make better life. How do you design to craft life? How do you design to craft communities that are productive, helpful, and above all, empathetic? And I think today's clarion call that we have on sustainability. How do you create a sustainable world? Because if anything has to succeed and live on, it has to be this.
Beautiful. So I hear, ma'am, that you've been talking about the interdisciplinary approach of design, and that's what probably our education system needs to address. That it's all intertwined, It's not in silos, and I think it's. So my question now is to Vaidehi, ma'am, and how did what has your school been doing, or in your leadership, in terms of inculcating this kind of value of interdisciplinary and creative understanding at an early stage, so that these young people could be real creators of the future. Because today, design is not human-centered. It is planet-centered. It's environment-centered. So, understanding how, do you think this understanding even prevails in our education system? Or it doesn't? And if it doesn't, how an individual is able to bring that forward?
Thank you, Archana, for having me here. And yes, a very pertinent question that what kind of an environment do we create in schools? And well, I feel that investing in creating an environment for creativity is actually investing and nurturing for the future. Because that is for success if a child is imaginative and creative. Now, how do we do it in a school scenario? Taking something that you have said that we are so still, we are so bogged down by our examination system, by an undue emphasis on grades and marks. And so how do we create this different way of looking at things? Children, as we all know, are very creative. But do we inculcate, do we motivate, do we encourage this creativity in school? We try to do it right from a very young age by giving a lot of free play to the children. And in the last level, a lot of free play, so children are not really guided to a certain, result or a certain outcome. They are free to play, they are free to create. Coming to the primary section, again, a lot of freedom to the children to find solutions. Teachers are free, they are encouraged to ask open-ended questions so that children come up with their own answers. Also to change the mindset of the teachers that there can't be just one answer, there can't be just one right answer. That is something that's a struggle still, because we are the teachers and the other world still is very much in the old days of teaching. So that's again a challenge to change that mindset. And I also feel that, to give the freedom to the child to ask questions, to be curious, and without the fear of judgment. The moment a child says something and the teacher says, no, it's not like this, you kill the curiosity. So I think the need is to create an environment where children feel fearless to ask questions, to come up with solutions, to develop problem-solving skills, and CBSE introduced we all know how many courses now. There is graphic design, there is AI, so many skill subjects are there. So the environment is changing. It is definitely changing for the better, I would say. But yes, we have to work a lot towards changing the environment.
Thank you, Vaidyanathan. I think you've touched on some very important points, and I too have some data that say that around 30% of high schools have at least one creative subject. That's what the new understanding says. And there is a 15% increase in the enrollment of creative disciplines in higher education in these last 5 years, which perhaps wasn't there. There were only a few institutions like NID, just a couple of them. But now with the government starting, 4 to 5 NIDs and around 20 plus NIFTs, we see in there the mushroom growth of private universities with design departments. Yes, there's been a great, traction towards the creative industries. Ma'am, looking at these creative programs, where as a school from Vadodara, I know the loyalty is also very inclined towards it. I was in one of the programs and she was very beautifully talking about the Raja paintings and things that they have worked closely on in terms of weaving and things. So, how have you been able to bring forward this kind of education and what kind of initiative the school is taking? So, thank you so much for having me today. I'm sitting amongst all followers. I come from a school which is only 12 years old. We are a new age school with a new thought. From an early age, what Vaidehi ma'am also said, and I am completely in sync with what Lata ma'am said. From an early age, we also try to give opportunities to children to explore things of their own. We celebrate a lot of weeks, as ma'am suggested. Like this year, we had a week for the primary school, which was known as the Hindustani week. So there were different kinds of activities that were done in that particular week in the month of April. Every year, we did 2 weeks. In the secondary school, we did a coffee week, a week dedicated to coffee and innovative ways of working with coffee. So, these kind of activities we do in school. Our complete newsletter, which is a quarterly event, event is managed by our students. So it's done on Canva, and now we are moving on to Vaidehi. I would just like to give an example of a student because both of them talked about children not being able to get opportunities to move into the field of their choice, especially for design. So we had a child coming in to our school last year in grade 11. The child walked in and wanted to meet our counselor. The counselor met and the child said, I'm very keen at taking psychology and I'm very interested in design. But my father had a chemical industry and he wants me to take math and science. How do I go about it? The child we discussed with the child, then we had for the parents, they were dead against it. Finally, they took admission because the child was not getting admission in the school that they wanted. The child has been an active participant of our newsletter team, and she has designed around 32 posters. This year we have taken kindness as our theme of the year. So she has designed 32 posters for the school. She has done a lot of good work in the school in terms of design. And we fortunately got an opportunity from college in Ahmedabad where they were giving a summer internship because the parents also had a crisis about the financial crisis also there. So they wanted us to recommend children for a summer school program in design. And she went there, what she created there, learned there, videos were sent by them. She was the best student in the summer school there. And the parents now have come back and they are saying that my child is going to go ahead and do only design. So that's amazing. Also, one of our students has designed a uniform. I can see puppets here. We do a lot of puppetry at school. We teach children to make puppets and we do a lot of storytelling. We have book nests across the whole school. Open book nests for children to pick up books and read. So you can see them in the corridors. We have cushions lined up everywhere. So the children can lie down anywhere they lie and read books. These are certain things we are trying to do in terms of design. There is lots of others, but I think we have to do. Thank you, ma'am. So you touched upon kindness, which is very interesting. So I was at the CAFA conference, which is the Cumulus conference that was held in Beijing just last November. So that's the Central Academy of Fine Arts, which is one of the premier in China, based in and the theme of our conference was a design conference talking about narratives of love. Design touching the areas of love. And how would a scientific research comprehend love from a design point of view? Now this was look at the way how Chinese are thinking, right? Then we have this gentleman, he runs a sustainable, these cells across different institutions, and his keynote speech was on design is care. So design has moved from being understood as industrial design after the Second World War, and then from industrial design to then luxury, and from luxury to mass market. Today it's become communication design, and design is constantly evolving. So the next stage for design is to look at areas like care, love, and kindness. Now, if this is how the world is thinking, where is India as a nation thinking about design? And here my question goes to Jayshree ma'am. Jayshree ma'am works very closely with a lot of higher education institutions. Ma'am, my question to you is that how can schools and higher education systems, institutions collaborate to create seamless pathways for the students to have creative careers? And why these creative careers are important?
Thank you, Archana. I'm an arts design. I'm here. Very pertinent and relevant because all our students should be who want them to go to college and to design college for sure. And what can we do to foster this love for design? We must see that our children are exposed to biographies. They must learn to hear their stories because every successful man or woman has done something creative in their field to reach where they are. They must have visits to museums, to art galleries, to entrepreneurial houses, to new businessmen's techniques, for them to understand the psychology behind creating something new, different. But here comes a catch for all the students sitting here. Hello to all of you. When you do something exceptional in your design, it also needs to be functional. So when I was seeing your products here, and I saw a piece of jewelry, and I said, beautiful. And it was feasible for me to wear it, it was functional for me to adorn it. You create an architecture, but the spaces are wasted. That's good design, but I think it's poor design. So design, if it's not functional, doesn't have a future. We must look at the Amazon rainforest. It's not about saving them, but creating more such like that. That's where your role as students will come in, and you will move to the higher education with your thought process. You don't necessarily have to be an art student. No. You can be doing physics, you can be doing mathematics, you can be doing music. And how do we combine these subjects to make it relevant, make it purposeful for the new generation, for this world that we live in? ये जो हमारी पृथ्वी है, उसमें हमारी आत्मा बसी है, और उसको हम कैसे उभारें, हम इस देश को आगे कैसे उन्नति पे ले जाएं? That is the role of design. I happened to meet Narayan Murthy ji sometime back, and he told me that I'm very happy of doing the international curriculum because he himself sent his own child to a university where there was more creativity. So he went to Cornell to do his engineering. And the first lesson, they were made into a group of 5 and they were giving this cell phone. Out of the 5 of you, you're going to better the price, you're going to better the memory, you're going to better the design. So everybody had a specific role to play. To create something, you need to innovate, you need to think out of the box, and that's where you will move from your school to your dream college, keeping in mind that I have to be a better version of myself. I have to better this world, and I have to better my surroundings. If all of us make this our pledge, then I'm going to make this world a better place to live in. The design will automatically come in. You can have a space that's say for 50 students, and you can have that same area for 500 students. It's only design. And there's nobody who's more exemplary than your own director here, because she's thought out of the box. She was the one to create this culture of design. So read up on her, question her, be in conversation, because you have a real example right here. Go to people that you can interact and ask them, and you will find your answer, and that's going to help you move to your next dream college.
Thank you, Jayshree. While we understand that, design has been understood at fashion, jewelry, interiors, communication, right? But when you look at that from an application point of view, today the new terms are sustainable design, social design, emotional design, right? So when you look at design, jewelry design is not jewelry, it's emotional design. Clothes is not clothes, it's sustainable design. We have to understand that how much wastage the clothing industry is creating on the planet. It's the second largest polluter on the planet, right? So sustainability and being responsible is so important when it comes to understanding the role of designers today. And if you look at, talking about service design, our cities are designed, our communities are designed, our surroundings, our biophilic interiors are designed. So you look look at how land, your cities are going to be, spaces are going to be there. So service design becomes a very important aspect. Now these are the new terms in the world. People have moved on from fashion, or even though you're learning a particular vocation, but the intent is from a point of view where you have to look at design from a more larger interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary perspective. So it's very important for a progression group to understand design at the school level from this kind of an orientation rather than looking at it as science, commerce and maths. Even if you look at commerce, it has science into it, right? Even look at entrepreneurship. So they're all intertwined. While the education system has tried to address it in silos, right? To create professions around it. But today those professions are also getting very, fluid, right? So I think overall it's very important to understand that it's a mindset. And that is a mindset of creativity that we need to inculcate within our young people. And with Suniti ma'am having served for so long with so many schools, and ma'am, what do you feel specifically challenged with when it comes to girls and boys? Because you were heading the boys at Cynthia.
I worked in all three schools.
Yeah.
Co-ed, all boys and all girls.
All girls. So what is the kind of difference when you look at from a creative point of view, in terms of creative education and higher education pathways, when it's all girls, when it's all boys and a co-ed? Yeah. Because I think gender is a big thing today. Huh? Now we have other genders as well. Today we don't talk only about two genders.
Well, that's an interesting question. Actually, all it boils down to is that gender is not important. It's a student you're working with, it's an individual. So there is a gender belief that the creative subjects are more suited to girls, whereas the boys are more practical in approach and should not go in for.
Whereas if you look at the industry, all industries are owned by men. Every industry is run by men. Women run only the cottage ones,
Exactly.
smaller ones. All large industries are run by men.
My point is that is a myth. The fact that most people tend to think in these terms is wrong. We are individuals, and all individuals have different ways of thinking. A lot of it is shaped by society. We have roles that we think girls should take on, and roles that boys should take on. But I'm happy to see that this is changing.
The stereotype is being
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what you said about mindset is important. We are in schools, we are shaping the mindset of children. How we treat them, how we handle them is the main messages to them all the time. So I think the first thing we need to make sure of is that the child is empowered. The child is not someone who's inferior that you have to supply with a lot of knowledge. But the child, in fact, what Vaidyanathan said is education is really bringing out what's already in the child.